Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we've got a pretty fun video, actually. We've got a nice unboxing for you, but what's cool about it is it's actually an unboxing of a bunch of prototype figures that I was recently able to acquire thanks to a buddy of mine. I have mentioned him in the past. He does run a really cool prototype Facebook group. I will include a link in the description to where you can check that out. He's always posting images and stuff of unreleased figures, prototypes, all kinds of stuff, whether it be Jurassic World, Godzilla, and more, so check that out. But I did make a trade with him for quite a few prototypes that I have here. Some pretty cool stuff that I'm excited to open up and look at for the first time here, but of course share with you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and start opening this stuff up and get to seeing what we've got in this box. So he does wrap this stuff up very nice and very safely, which is good, but as you can see, this one actually has a broken horn, and I believe it came that way. That's just the way the original figure was, and that's something that unfortunately is very common when it comes to prototypes, because a lot of the time, again, they're just, like they're mentioned prototypes, like it's stuff that is disposable and things that they don't mind breaking. And most prototypes, actually, I would say you end up with, broken areas and stuff. So obviously we do have a break on the horn of this one, but this is a pretty cool figure, and I actually don't even know if I have the actual release. You can see that it is a KFC figure, and if we turn it around, you can also see Discovery on here. So pretty cool, honestly. It's not something, again, as I said, that I have, so I'm gonna have to look into this one, try to find out a little bit more about it, and maybe actually acquire the official release, not just the prototype. But that is definitely a pretty cool figure. Then we've got our very first Mattel prototype in here, and there are a few, not too many, but you can see we've got ourselves a prototype of a Velociraptor from the Mattel line. Pretty sweet to have this anytime I can get my hands on a Mattel prototype. Again, I'm really excited. I wonder if it actually has the fax app in there. Nope, just an empty slot for it. I didn't expect it to, but you just never know. But again, it is always really fun to have stuff like this. Like, it's just neat to have unique items that, you can't find every day. Stuff that you really have to work to search for or spend a ton of money to get a hold of. Now, obviously, this one doesn't come in any sort of like crazy colors or anything, but it is still a prototype, and it is still really cool, even if it is, again, a Velociraptor from Mattel, as we have so many. At least it's a prototype. Then we've got ourselves another Mattel prototype. This is obviously a prototype of the Prestosuchus from Mattel, but I think this is actually the color-changing version, a prototype of that figure specifically. And again, as I stated, you do have a little damage here on the side of the neck, like I said earlier. Very common when it comes to prototypes, but that's pretty interesting to have, a prototype version of this figure, and a super cool species choice. A lot of the time when I'm able to locate prototypes and stuff, most times you end up getting like, the more generic, more common figures and species like the Velociraptor and stuff. So it is really fun for me to be able to have a prototype of the Prestosuchus now in my collection. And another Mattel prototype. Yes, it is another of the color-changing figures again, and we have the Piatnitskysaurus, which is, again, another really cool species. Obviously, you can see we've got a little variation to the color of this one as you move through. It's fun to actually see, like, some areas are unpainted and stuff, and then you've got, like, the head here with the eyes painted and the teeth painted and stuff. I wonder if the inside of the mouth is painted. Let me try to get that open. I remember this being kind of a pain to actually open the mouth on the one that I have. So yeah, the inside of the mouth is painted. So basically the head is, looks like it was broken off maybe at one point. Maybe it's been reapplied by my buddy. I'm not too sure, but still super, super cool again to now have a prototype of that one as well. Then we've got ourselves a Godzilla prototype, and I have no idea what figure this is, but it is super, super chunky and adorable. I'm going to have to look into this one to see exactly, who makes this figure and exactly what figure it was, but definitely neat to have the prototype version of it. And again, it's always awesome to have a Godzilla prototype. Then we've got a prototype here of a Therizinosaurus. Now, I don't know for sure if this is a Schleich original prototype or if it's like a knockoff version. It's hard to tell. I'm trying to look for like the branding, but I forget where the branding would be for it. And I also am not entirely positive if the prototypes actually have the branding on it. So again, it could very well be an original Schleich prototype, but it's definitely the Schleich Therizinosaurus, the smaller version that they had out again. Very much so in just a pure white coloration. Then we've got this one, which is pretty interesting. It's an Ankylosaurus, and it looks like it's maybe the Schleich Ankylosaurus, but smaller. It does state JP/China on the underside. Now, I don't know exactly what that branding is or what it means, but still pretty cool looking Ankylosaurus figure. Again, another solid color with a little hint of like green showing up here and there, but definitely another fun one to include in my collection. Then we've got some of these figures. Now, I do already have some of these actually in prototype form. I don't remember exactly what colors I have. The problem is I can never remember the company that actually makes these. I don't remember if these were Kid Galaxy or if they were made by a different company, but you can very clearly see, again, that is a very Jurassic Park 3-ish style Spinosaurus in a really cool blue color. But like I said, I can't really remember, and I don't know if it's going to tell me on the underside. I don't see anything. Obviously, we have the spot right there where they would put the information, but it hasn't been applied yet. Again, I guess not really something they're worried about in the prototype stage. But we've also got the Styracosaurus, again from the same line, the same brand, which again, I may or may not already have a prototype of this one. I can't really recall for sure. I know I do have a few of these type of figures that I did acquire from him a ways back that were, again, protos then as well, but I can't really remember which species I had. And of course, we continue on now with the Stegosaurus, again from the same brand. Like I said, I believe it's Kid Galaxy or some very similar brand, but still a really cool figure. It's actually a decently sculpted Stegosaurus. I definitely have seen this one in the Kid Galaxy line, and actually I think I've seen all of them, so I'm going to go ahead and say that these would be Kid Galaxy prototypes. And then we've got one more with the, I think this one actually has been labeled a few different species. I think I've seen it labeled as everything from an Apatosaurus to an Argentinosaurus, so who knows exactly what species it's meant to be, but I like that they're all almost the same similar bluish tones, slightly different tones of color, but they were definitely enjoying the blues for that round of prototypes. And we've got ourselves another Mattel prototype because we actually have the, I think it was 5-inch or 6-inch basic figures of the Giganotosaurus. Now this one is definitely a prototype, but you can see one side is actually painted for the most part, even an attempt to kind of give it a little bit of eye paint, but then when you turn it around, we do have an unpainted side, so super, super cool to have something as unique as that now in my collection. Then we've got ourselves a piece of a Mattel Tyrannosaurus prototype. I'm not actually sure what T-Rex this is. It actually kind of looks like maybe it would be like the Epic Roaring T-Rex. Maybe not. I can't really recall. But as you can see, again, it's obviously another broken piece. Something that was just discarded by the factory when creating this. And again, one company's trash is another man's treasure. You can obviously see we kind of have like the articulated jaw, but it's really only the tongue and stuff in there. So not something that probably everybody's going to go crazy over because, again, it's not a full dinosaur, but I love this stuff. I think it's always so fun to have, you know, test samples and just little prototypes and prototype pieces and stuff like this. Just really unique stuff to add to my collection. And we've actually got another one here that did include a little bit of paint work to it. You can see some colors, but like unpainted eyes and stuff, and there's nothing going on here on the inside of the mouth. But again, another prototype, and this would be like a really cool piece once I establish exactly which T-Rex it is that I'm looking at, to be able to include in like a display with the actual release. That would definitely be a really neat way to display these prototype pieces, but that's super fun as well. Then we've got some really cool stuff. Here is a Zoom Rider from Toy Monster International prototype of the Triceratops. So that, of course, doesn't feature the underside where the wheels would be, but we have the rest of the figure, which is really, really cool. And then some really neat stuff, because these are actually from the Noble collection. These, I think, are part of the chess set, and we obviously have a prototype of Rexy here, which is really, really neat to have the unpainted version and everything. And I actually do have the chess set of this, so if I were to display the chess set, I could display it with the prototypes. We also have the Velociraptor here included as well, which again is really neat. We can obviously see where the Jurassic Park logo would go. and that is awesome. Different color there between those two. We also have the Brachiosaurus included as well, again, which is really neat. And of course, we have like the rearing up version of the Brachiosaurus that was included in that chest set. Again, I'm pretty sure these are the chest pieces. We also have another Velociraptor in a different color. We obviously have the green version on top of the brown. And the same can be said for the Brachiosaurus as well as the T-Rex. So I've got one of each of the different color variants here, as far as the prototypes go anyway, for each of those different pieces. And here is something that is really neat. We actually have a prototype of Velociraptor Blue, the figure from the Jurassic World The Live Tour. If you do remember when you go to that, if you did go, or if you happen to remember my reviews of it, obviously it's a little warped, but there were 4 different figures that were available only at the live show, that you could get a Rexy, a Stegosaurus, a Triceratops, and Velociraptor Blue. So here we have the prototype of that Velociraptor Blue figure, which is awesome. Definitely really cool to have a prototype from that. Then we have another Mattel prototype. We actually have a prototype of the mighty little biter Spinosaurus, and that is really cool because this is actually a newer figure that has only come out fairly recently. And again, it looks really, really neat. Obviously, at one point we were like wondering if maybe this was going to be like some sort of a rebirth Spinosaurus with like the little extra kind of tooth sticking up on the underside. As it turns out, not so much. The Spinosaurus from Rebirth looks very different from the Mighty Little Biters version, but that is awesome. Then we have something that's really interesting to me. We have this, which I'm going to have to readjust the camera because it's obviously a bit too tall, but we have a Therizinosaurus prototype, and it's very obviously the Schleich Therizinosaurus. But what's cool about this is it does have the articulated jaw. It also has articulated arms and articulated legs, which is something that the actual Schleich version did not have. So I don't know, again, if maybe this is a a newer version they're going to release, or if this was like a weird bootleg from somebody else. I have no idea. It's actually super flexible because, again, it is created in a very flexible material, at least as far as this prototype goes. But that's really neat. I've never seen anything like, even if it is in fact a knockoff version of the Schleich Therizinosaurus, like I've never seen one that actually had articulated legs. And I kind of feel like it might be an original Schleich because the detail is really nice and crisp on this, and most of the knockoffs usually have very subpar detail. So I'm thinking that maybe it's an original Schleich, and I don't know for sure. Maybe they were going to make one with articulated legs. I have no idea. That's actually quite the mystery to me, but still really cool. And this one is definitely a Schleich prototype. It is their Tyrannosaurus Rex, their smaller one, and it does actually have the Schleich stamp on the underside, so that definitely proves that fact. So that's really cool. The detail on that, again, is super, super crisp. Apparently my Therizinosaurus fell over as well. And then we actually have another one here, but it's a different version. You can see this is more of the crouching version. This one's kind of up higher. I don't even remember this one exactly in the Schleich line. I'm going to have to remember and go through those again, but this one's really neat as well. And we actually have the CollectA Tyrannosaurus here as well. So a prototype of the CollectA, I think it's the old school CollectA T-Rex. So that's really, really awesome. And we also have this, which I think is the Polacanthus from Papo. It does have a made in China stamp on the underside, but I don't actually see like the Papo branding. But again, I'm not too sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what that is. Or maybe, again, a weird knockoff of it. I'm not sure, but still super, super cool. And the final figure in here is this, which I'm going to have to readjust the camera again for. It is a prototype of the Mattel Therizinosaurus, and you can see some parts are painted, some parts are not. Obviously, the eyes and stuff are not painted. The inside of the mouth as well was not painted at this point. We do have very much so unpainted hands as well as the feet and everything. So again, a very cool and very large prototype. Definitely one of the largest prototypes that I have in my collection. So it's all over here, but as you can see, a massive pile here of prototypes. So again, a huge thank you has to go out to my buddy for hooking me up with this epic trade. Please check out his Facebook group, which I will include a link to in the description. Again, make sure you join that. Check out all of his insanely cool prototype images he's always posting. Again, a massive thank you goes out to him for this insane score. Let me know what you guys think of all of this, and of course, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.